Why do the hardest workers often remain poor, while those who work the least seem to rise to the top? This is a question that puzzles many, raising doubts about fairness in society and the true nature of success. If hard work is the key to changing one's life, then why do the results sometimes seem completely opposite? Could it be that we've been deceived by a work ethic that Nietzsche once called a false belief? In this video, we will explore Friedrich Nietzsche's sharp insights on labor and success to better understand why the idea that hard work always pays off might be a lie passed down through generations. Nietzsche not only challenges the fairness of traditional labor values, but also examines how the moral codes around work can sometimes stifle personal potential and trap people in a cycle of poverty despite their relentless efforts. We'll uncover why working hard isn't always the fastest path to success, and conversely, why those who know how to strategize, leverage relationships, or simply work smarter can often rise quickly. This video will help you rethink how you define labor, success, and your own value in today's world. Join me on this journey to uncover the hidden truths behind the so-called work ethic many still believe in, so you can gain a fresh, clearer perspective on what it really takes to succeed. You work 60 hours a week, you show up early, you stay late, you say yes when others say no, you follow the rules, you sacrifice your time, your energy, your health for the job, for the team, for the promise of someday. You're loyal, you're honest, you take pride in doing things the right way. You pour your heart into every task, believing that effort is the key to success, that dedication will pave the road to the life you've always dreamed of. And yet, somehow, you're stuck. You watch someone else, someone who cuts corners, who talks more than they work, who knows the right people but lacks your skills, rise higher, faster. They're living the life you thought you'd earned, the promotions, the recognition, the financial freedom. Meanwhile, you're left grinding, scraping by, wondering, what did I do wrong? The frustration burns, the unfairness stings. You followed the script, checked every box, yet the rewards seem to slip through your fingers like sand. But maybe you're asking the wrong question. Maybe it's not about what you did wrong. Maybe the real question is, what lie have I been told? From childhood, you were fed a narrative as comforting as it is pervasive. Hard work leads to reward. Effort equals outcome. If you just grind long enough, stay loyal enough, the system will notice, recognize, and repay you. It's a story woven into school lessons, family advice, and motivational posters. It's the backbone of the American dream. But what if that formula is broken? Worse, what if it was never real to begin with? Friedrich Nietzsche, the German philosopher who tore through illusions like a storm, saw through this myth. He argued that moral labor, the kind of work glorified for its sacrifice, obedience, and humility, isn't noble. It's a trap, a form of spiritual slavery designed not to lift you up, but to keep you in place, tethered to a system that thrives on your compliance. Nietzsche wasn't just a philosopher, he was a provocateur, exposing the hidden architecture of human belief and challenging the stories we're told to keep us docile. Here's the uncomfortable truth. We live in a world where power, not virtue, determines outcomes. Morality, as it's often preached, is a tool to control those who have none. You were taught that virtue is its own reward, that keeping your head down and staying good will make life fair. But life isn't fair. Life is competitive. Life is political. The system you serve doesn't reward virtue. It rewards value, not the value you create through sweat and skill, but the value you control through leverage, influence, and strategy. Consider the nurse pulling a grueling 12-hour shift, saving lives while barely catching a breath. She earns less than a TikToker peddling a get-rich-quick course to impressionable followers. Or the blue-collar worker breaking their back every day to keep society running, only to retire with barely enough to survive. Meanwhile, someone manipulating markets or gaming the system walks away with millions. This isn't a glitch, it's the design. The system praises hard work, but rewards those who master the art of control. Control over resources, networks, and narratives. It's not your fault you believed the myth. The myth was crafted for people like you, honest, hardworking, trusting, to keep you obedient, to keep you grinding, to keep you from asking dangerous questions like, who benefits from my loyalty? Who profits from my exhaustion? Why does the system glorify effort but funnel the rewards elsewhere? These questions threaten the status quo, and the system is built to discourage them. Nietzsche didn't say, stop working. He didn't glorify laziness or selfishness. Instead, he challenged the idea that obedient labor is inherently moral, that suffering without reward is sacred, that virtue means submission. He called this mindset slave morality, a belief system born not from strength but from weakness, not from power but from fear. It's a worldview that keeps you chained to the promise of someday, a promise that rarely delivers. If you feel stuck despite doing everything right, you're not crazy. You're waking up. You're starting to see that the world isn't malfunctioning. It's functioning exactly as it was built to. The people who rise aren't always the most skilled or selfless. They're the ones who understand power, how to navigate it, claim it, and detach their worth from the system's approval. They don't wait for permission. They don't beg for recognition. They create their own value and demand their place. So, what if working harder isn't the answer? What if the belief in moral labor isn't your salvation but your cage? The moment you confront this lie, you begin to see the world differently. You stop grinding for someone else's game and start rewriting the rules for your own. Let's be clear, the system isn't broken, it's rigged. It's designed to reward those who play the game of power, not those who play by the rules of virtue. The construction worker rising before dawn, the teacher shaping young minds, the delivery driver keeping cities alive. These are the people who make the world turn. Yet they're often the ones scraping by, while those who master leverage, CEOs, influencers, dealmakers, reap the lion's share. Why? Because labor builds the world, but power controls it. Nietzsche's insight cuts deeper. The moral system itself was crafted by the powerful to pacify the masses. It glorifies sacrifice, obedience, and humility, not because these traits are inherently good, but because they keep you in line. They keep you hoping, striving, waiting for a reward that never comes. The promise of someday is a chain, one forged not by force but by belief. So what's the way out? It's not about abandoning morality or becoming ruthless. It's about redefining strength. Nietzsche's vision of the Übermensch, the overman, isn't a villain or a tyrant. It's an individual who creates their own values, who refuses to be defined by a system that doesn't serve them. The Übermensch doesn't wait for a promotion or validation. They build their own path, their own meaning, their own power, not to dominate others, but to master their own destiny. You've seen these people in real life. The entrepreneur who left a dead-end job to launch a bold venture. The artist who turned rejection into a movement. The visionary who stopped asking for permission and started taking risks. Think of someone like Elon Musk, fired from his own company, dismissed as reckless, yet building empires through sheer will and refusal to bow to fear. What sets them apart isn't just talent, it's mindset. They stopped asking, when will the system see my worth? And started asking, why am I giving it that power? Escaping this cage means letting go of the need to be seen as good by a system that profits from your silence. It means having the courage to disappoint those who benefit from your compliance. It means learning the rules of power, not to exploit, but to protect your vision. It means saying no when it serves your purpose, building alliances strategically, and recognizing when to walk away. This isn't about becoming selfish. It's about becoming sovereign. It's about understanding that hard work without strategy, without ownership, without power, will keep you stuck. The future doesn't belong to the obedient. It belongs to those who merge principle with power, who act with empathy, but also with edge. Stop waiting for the world to change. Start changing the terms of your own existence. If you're tired of the myth that sacrifice is enough, if you're ready to think deeper, act smarter, and live on your terms, this is where it begins. Wake up. See the system for what it is. Study it, understand it, and when the rules no longer serve you, write new ones. Become the architect of your own future. One decision, one bold step at a time. So ask yourself, what if working harder is not the answer? What if the belief in moral labor is not your salvation but your cage? Because until you confront that lie, you'll keep grinding while someone else rewrites the rules. Let's take a closer look at the contradiction hiding in plain sight. If hard work leads to success, then why do the hardest working people in society so often struggle just to survive? Think about it. The construction workers who rise before the sun and labor until their backs ache. The nurses who pull 12-hour shifts, racing between patients, skipping meals, missing holidays. The delivery drivers, janitors, bus operators, truckers, people who keep cities alive, who make the physical world function. And yet these are the same people who live paycheck to paycheck, who worry about rent, who can't afford to get sick. Meanwhile, someone filming get-rich-quick tips in a rented Lamborghini on TikTok is making more in a day than that nurse earns in a month. You feel it. You've seen it. This isn't a rare glitch in the system. This is the system. Because while labor builds the world, labor does not control it. The people who earn the most, CEOs, hedge fund managers, politicians, thought leaders, they are not the ones sweating in the heat or grinding in the cold. They are not pushing physical limits or sacrificing their bodies. They operate in a different domain entirely. The domain of leverage, perception, control. They don't just work. They position, they influence, they own. Let's be brutally honest. We've built a world where value isn't rewarded based on effort, but based on power. A world where controlling capital, networks, and narratives pays far more than producing anything tangible. And that world is by design. It's tempting to think this is unfair, that there's been some kind of mistake. But again, this isn't a malfunction. This is how the game has been set up for centuries, because physical labor, no matter how honest, can be replaced, automated, outsourced, devalued. But control over resources, over people, over ideas, is scalable. The nurse can only treat one patient at a time. The investor can move billions with a single click. And the system favors scale. And here's where the lie of moral labor becomes especially cruel. We've been conditioned to believe that suffering is noble, that endurance is honorable, that those who serve quietly, who sacrifice without complaint, are the moral backbone of society. And they are. But morality doesn't pay the bills. Praise doesn't build wealth, and sacrifice doesn't automatically translate into influence. While the working class is told to keep your head down and be grateful, those at the top are trained in strategy, in law, in manipulation, in capital acquisition. They are taught not to serve, but to manage, not to endure, but to dominate. They learn the rules and then learn how to rewrite them. So ask yourself, if moral labor is so righteous, so essential, why doesn't it come with power? Why are the most indispensable workers also the most disposable? Why does society preach the value of hard work, then funnel the rewards elsewhere? Nietzsche would say it's because the moral system itself was crafted by the powerful, not to liberate the masses, but to pacify them. It teaches obedience, not sovereignty, self-sacrifice, not self-assertion. It glorifies submission, then punishes those who dare to question the hierarchy. That's why the lie persists, because it benefits those in charge, because it keeps people striving, hoping and working for a reward that never comes, because the promise of someday is the most effective chain ever forged. So the question becomes clear. If hard work doesn't lead to power, then what does? And more importantly, are you willing to unlearn the lie you were raised to believe? To understand how this lie took hold, why the world continues to reward manipulation over merit, perception over perseverance, we have to go deeper. We have to look at the foundation of the values we've been taught to live by. And for that, we turn to Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche didn't see morality as a universal good. He saw it as a weapon, created, shaped, and deployed by those in power to serve their own ends. In his eyes, what we call morality isn't truth, it's strategy. He drew a sharp line between two competing moral systems, master morality and slave morality. Master morality is born from strength. It celebrates ambition, boldness, creativity, and the will to shape the world. It does not wait for permission, it does not ask to be recognized, it declares its own value. The one who holds master morality defines good by what enhances their power, their freedom, their capacity to build and command. Strength is not seen as a threat, it is a virtue. And virtue is whatever affirms life, power, and possibility. But slave morality, that's different. Slave morality is born from weakness. It emerges from those who cannot compete on the battlefield of power. So they redefine the rules. They claim that humility is superior to strength, that obedience is nobler than dominance, that suffering is a sign of moral purity. In this system, the qualities that once defined weakness are reframed as virtues, because it's the only way the powerless can find dignity in a world they cannot control. And here's the trap. Once this moral code spreads, it becomes sacred, untouchable. It's no longer seen as a strategy for survival. It's taught as absolute truth. This is how moral labor came to be praised. The idea that good people sacrifice, that honorable people serve, that virtue lies in doing your duty expecting nothing in return. We romanticize the worker who never complains, who always says yes, who puts the needs of others before their own, without realizing that this narrative serves those who benefit from their silence. Nietzsche would tell you, you are not rewarded for your morality, you are pacified by it. You're praised for being dependable, promoted for being manageable, rewarded not to empower you, but to keep you from asking questions. The system throws you a title, a plaque, a raise, just big enough to keep you hopeful, just small enough to keep you dependent. And all the while, the true currency, ownership, control, power, remains out of reach. So why does this belief still hold so much power? Why do millions of people still cling to the promise that suffering equals virtue? That sacrifice will be seen, that obedience will be rewarded? Because the story is beautiful. Because it gives meaning to pain. Because it allows people to endure unfairness without confronting it. Slave morality survives not because it is true, but because it is comforting. And comfort is a powerful sedative. But Nietzsche didn't write to comfort. He wrote to awaken, to force us to confront the terrifying freedom that comes when you stop waiting for justice and start creating your own terms. And so the real question begins to take shape. Not just why we were taught to suffer quietly, but who benefits when we do. But if this system is so rigged, so clearly designed to reward control over contribution, why do so many good people still believe in it? Why do millions of hard-working men and women continue to chase a promise that rarely delivers? The answer isn't just economic, it's psychological. It starts early, long before your first paycheck. From childhood, we're taught that the world is fair, that good things happen to good people, that justice will prevail, Stories, cartoons, school, lessons, they all repeat the same comforting refrain. If you do what's right, you'll be rewarded. Be honest, be kind, be diligent, and in the end, life will make sense. But here's the problem. That belief has a name. Psychologists call it the just world fallacy, the idea that the world is inherently fair, that effort equals outcome, that what you give will always come back. It's a beautiful idea. It gives people hope. It helps us make sense of suffering. But it's not true. And clinging to it, especially in a system designed to reward power over principle, isn't just naive. It's dangerous, because while you're working late, double-checking spreadsheets, fixing problems you didn't cause, someone else is learning how to play the board. While you're saying yes, being polite, taking on the extra shift, someone else is building alliances, studying leverage, understanding exactly how to make the system work for them. You believe you're being moral, they're being strategic, and in this world, strategy wins. That's why the engineer who keeps the servers running gets laid off, while the reputation advisor with political connections gets promoted. That's why the nurse loses her weekend bonus, but the hospital's PR budget doubles. You've been taught to trust the latter. They were taught how to skip steps. And here's where it gets cruel. The system doesn't just fail to reward hard work. It uses your belief in fairness to keep you locked in place. The longer you wait for your virtue to be noticed, the easier you are to control. Because people who believe in justice don't rebel. They don't demand more. They keep waiting for recognition, for fairness, for someday. But someday never comes. This isn't just about money. It's about mindset. About understanding that if you keep showing up with the wrong map, you'll never reach the right destination. The rules you were taught were designed to produce good workers, not powerful people, because the people who taught them to you, they understood the game. They just needed someone else to keep playing it. So, if the world isn't fair, if virtue doesn't lead to victory, then what does? How do you survive without becoming ruthless? How do you move forward without losing your soul? The answer isn't to abandon morality. It's to stop worshipping it, to stop treating sacrifice like a strategy, to realize that good intentions are not a plan, that in a world built on power, understanding power is part of being good. Because when you open your eyes to the truth that fairness is not a guarantee, but a story we've been sold to keep us quiet, then you can finally begin to write your own. Not a story of blind sacrifice, but of conscious strength. Not obedience, but ownership. Not waiting for the world to change, but learning how to change your place in it. So what do you do once you've seen the lie? Once you realize that waiting to be rewarded for your obedience is a dead end? You don't throw away your morals. You redefine what strength looks like. This is the mistake many make when they first wake up. They think the only alternative to being exploited is becoming heartless. But Nietzsche didn't preach cruelty. He wasn't telling you to abandon integrity. He was telling you to stop confusing submission with virtue. His solution wasn't to destroy morality, but to overcome the morality of weakness, to become someone who doesn't just follow rules, but writes new ones. Someone who doesn't need permission to live with purpose. In Nietzsche's words, that person is the Übermensch, the overman, not a tyrant, not a villain, but a fully realized individual, a creator of values, someone who walks away from systems that no longer serve them and builds something better in their place. The Übermensch doesn't sit quietly hoping to be seen. He defines his own meaning. He doesn't wait to be promoted. He creates impact on his terms. He understands the system but isn't enslaved by it. He knows when to play the game and when to change the board. He understands that power isn't evil, it's necessary, not power over others, but power over yourself, your direction, your destiny. You've seen these people in real life. The entrepreneur who walked away from a stable job to build something bold. The investor who turned rejection into innovation. The builder who stopped asking for permission and started taking risks. Think about Elon Musk, fired from the company he helped create, dismissed by others as reckless, until he built an empire on vision, conviction, and the refusal to be ruled by fear. What separates these people isn't just talent or luck, it's mindset. They didn't wait for the system to validate them. They stopped asking, when will they see my worth? And started asking, why am I giving them that power in the first place? That shift, from waiting to creating, from submitting to owning, that's the path Nietzsche pointed to. That's what it means to step out of the cage of moral labor. But here's the hard truth. Escaping that cage means letting go of something deeply comfortable, your attachment to being seen as good. It means being willing to disappoint people who benefit from your silence. It means being willing to stand alone for a time while you build a new foundation. That takes more than confidence. It takes courage. Because true strength isn't about domination. It's about authorship. About writing a life that aligns with your deepest values, not the values handed to you by a system designed to keep you docile. This isn't about becoming selfish. It's about becoming sovereign. So ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped waiting to be rewarded and started rewarding yourself with the life you actually want? What would it look like to stop asking for a seat at the table and start building your own? You don't have to become ruthless, but you do have to become responsible for your own power. Because once you realize the system won't save you, the only path forward is to stop being a servant of it and start becoming the author of something greater. So what does action look like after the awakening? After you've seen through the illusion of moral labor, after you've stopped waiting for fairness, after you've chosen not to abandon morality, but to reclaim your power, what's next? It starts with understanding this. Kindness is not weakness, but strategic kindness. That's strength. Too often, people confuse being good with being passive. They think saying yes, avoiding conflict, and putting others first makes them virtuous. But Nietzsche would say morality without consciousness is just obedience in disguise. The goal is not to become cold or manipulative. It's to become conscious, to learn how to move through the world with both a moral compass and a survival strategy. Strategic kindness means knowing when to help and when to walk away. It means reading people, not just trusting them. It means understanding context, when to speak, when to stay silent, when to strike. It means you don't say yes to everyone just to be liked. You say yes when it aligns with your goals, your truth, your strength. Because here's the thing. Not every job deserves your loyalty. Not every leader deserves your trust. Not every opportunity deserves your time. You must become the kind of person who knows when to walk away, when a situation is no longer serving you, and has the strength to leave. Leaving is not failure. Sometimes it's the beginning of freedom. You've spent years grinding, 60-hour weeks, early mornings, late nights, saying yes when others say no. You've followed the rules, sacrificed your time, energy, and health for the promise of a better future. You're loyal, honest, and take pride in doing things right. But too often, you're left watching others, those who cut corners, network better, or wield influence, climb higher, faster, claiming the rewards you thought were yours. If you're wondering why your hard work hasn't paid off, it's time to stop asking, "What did I do wrong?" and start asking, "What lie have I been sold?" The lie is this: hard work alone guarantees success. It's a comforting story drilled into us from childhood, but it's a half-truth at best. Hard work without strategy, without ownership, without power, keeps you tethered to someone else's system. This is where power comes in. Not the kind that exploits others, but the kind you claim for yourself. Power to create, to say no, To build systems where you're not just earning a paycheck, but owning your future. Power to channel your energy, not into fueling someone else's machine, but into a mission that reflects your deepest values. This might mean starting your own business, a bold leap to carve out a space where your vision reigns. It could mean building a side hustle, a secondary income stream that gives you freedom from the 9-to-5 grind. Or it might mean learning the art of influence, not to manipulate, but to protect your dreams. It's about mastering negotiation, setting boundaries, and having the courage to say, "I won't do this anymore," and meaning it. These aren't betrayals of your morals, they're proof of your maturity. They show you've grown beyond blind obedience into someone who respects their own worth. The truth is stark. If you don't learn to play the power game, you'll always be a pawn in it. But playing doesn't mean selling your soul. The key is to use power as a tool, not a trophy. Let your ethics guide your path, but let strategy shape your moves. Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who challenged comforting illusions, put it simply, power isn't evil. It's the will to become more than a servant, more than a cog, more than just the good employee. It's the drive to author your own worth, to define your value on your terms. You can't do that if you treat morality as a cage, chaining you to sacrifice and submission. Instead, treat it as a compass, one that points to your true north, not someone else's approval. Don't abandon your principles. Don't become a cynical player chasing status for its own sake. But do learn how the game works. Understand, leverage, how to position yourself, build alliances, and recognize when you're being used versus when you're being valued. Because the future doesn't belong to the obedient. It belongs to the clear-eyed, the conscious, those who blend principle with power, empathy with edge. If you grew up believing hard work alone is enough, that keeping your head down, staying loyal, and doing things right will earn you the life you want, it's time to wake up. Not because hard work is worthless, but because hard work without strategy, without ownership, without power, will leave you stuck. The world doesn't reward effort alone. It rewards those who understand how to navigate its currents, claim their place, and rewrite the rules when they no longer serve. Think of the real trailblazers, the entrepreneur who left a dead-end job to build something extraordinary, the innovator who turned rejection into opportunity, the visionary who stopped waiting for permission and started taking risks. Consider someone like Oprah Winfrey, who rose from poverty and adversity, not just by working hard, but by mastering influence, building her own empire, and defining her value on her terms. These people don't just labor, they see the system for what it is. They study it, understand it, and when it fails them, they create their own rules. This is the difference between surviving and leading, between being a cog in someone else's machine and becoming the architect of your own destiny. It's not about becoming ruthless, it's about becoming responsible for your time, your energy, your future. It means letting go of the need to be seen as good by a system that profits from your compliance. It means having the courage to disappoint those who benefit from your silence, and the wisdom to walk away when a situation no longer serves you. So, what's next? Stop waiting for the world to reward your sacrifice. Start claiming the power to shape your own path. Learn to negotiate, to say no, to build something that's yours. Whether it's a business, a side project, or a new mindset. Study the game, not to exploit others, but to defend your vision. Merge your principles with strategy, your empathy with ambition. The world won't hand you fairness, but it can't stop you from creating it for yourself. If you're tired of waiting, if you're done with the myth that hard work is enough, this is where your journey begins. Step out of the cage of obedience. Become the author of your own story. Rewrite the rules. one bold decision at a time, and build a future that reflects not just your effort, but your power. What did you think about today's video? Feel free to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Thank you for watching. If this video opened your mind or helped you see reality in a new light, don't forget to like and subscribe to Top Hidden Knowledge so you never miss our next deep dive into mystery, perception, and the hidden workings of our universe. And if you have time, explore more videos on our channel. We're just getting started. Until next time, stay curious, stay aware, and never stop questioning the world around you.